What's going on, everybody? Today's podcast, America's Hometown Horror, is brought to you by Podgo. That's right, another new sponsor tonight, folks. Podgo, in case you haven't heard, is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.com at podgo.co, and be sure to add America's Hometown Horror Podcast in the How Did You Hear About Podgo section of the application. Again, that is podgo.co, and mention America's Hometown Horror Podcast. Thank you, Otis. What is up? 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 What is going on?
Otis is here in the studio.
My name is Mike. Thanks for tuning into another episode of America's Hometown Horror. We are certainly happy to have you back. And as always, I am not by myself. I am joined by my fellow co-hosts of the evening. First co-host is Otis, the hound dog.
He's just itching to talk.
How's it going, bud? I know. I know. He's very loud, folks. Don't mind him. Keep listening, please. But I am also joined by some other co-hosts. The first one is Andrew. How you doing, my friend?
Doing fantastic. How you doing?
Doing great, man. I'm happy that you asked. I'm happy to have you here, and I know that you are chomping at the bit to get into what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, it should be a fun one.
Should be. It very well should be. I'm also joined.
All fun, though.
I'm also joined by my co-host, my wife, Catherine. What's going on?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well.
Swell.
Are you ready to rock and roll? And
I am. I'm very ready to rock and roll about this movie.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. I appreciate that. Hold on one second.
Like it's
I don't understand. Well, now we're using a new tablet and a new
this is all new?
software. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to teach myself. So, anyway, sorry for the technical difficulties there. Folks, what is going on? You guys, thank you again for sticking with us through the technical difficulties. I'm talking to you and Catherine.
I wasn't sure if we were redoing a part where you were like introducing us, so I was like, wait.
No, we got all that. It might be on the tablet's microphone as opposed to our wonderful Blue Yeti X microphone that we use for the rest of our stuff that we do.
Such a nice microphone.
But again, away we go here for another episode of America's Hometown Horror. And last week we did Misery, and we had the pleasure of having Matt Audette on, who was great as always. So thanks again to Matt. I think that episode came out very nicely. And I guess, the biggest topic in the world right now is Tom Brady going to win an 8th Super Bowl next year? I know Kat is super excited to talk about it, but, the man is unbelievable.
Why is this on the horror podcast?
I feel
relevant.
like it has to be talked about because he is an insane person.
He's going to be going for his 8th Super Bowl. That's relevant in any conversation.
Yeah.
You got to talk about the GOAT. The GOAT.
Yeah, the GOAT. The GOAT
I'm
Lots
pass.
of goats in this episode later, or lambs, actually, maybe. So, yikes.
I think they're goats. No Black Phillips in this one.
Yeah, but so I guess I kind of mean that as a roundabout way to get into what we've watched over the last week since we recorded. Which I admittedly, with the Super Bowl going on and everything, haven't watched a ton of stuff. Still haven't seen the Little Things, that Denzel movie with Rami Malek. Did you watch that?
Nope.
Yeah, neither did we. Also, this Clarice show on CBS can fuck right the fuck off and get out of my face. Honestly, I haven't even watched it. I'm just so sick of seeing the commercials for it, and it's not Hannibal, so sorry, I'm sour about it.
Yeah. Soon enough, though. We don't have to wait too long.
They're going to have 2 Hannibal Lecter TV shows going on at the same time. Because, maybe
they assume that this one's going to last one season.
Maybe.
And they're using it as a means to draw interest towards Hannibal, even though it's a different
station.
I
get the interest in the focus on the character of Clarice, right? But at some point, doesn't Hannibal Lecter have to be in that show?
Yeah.
Like, why not just make another season of Hannibal? Why do you need to do another one?
What time period is that show supposed to take place?
I'm not sure.
Is it like before she even meets Buffalo Bill or is it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no
specify.
idea.
I mean,
I have no idea. All I know is
there.
it's actually not even on CBS All Access, their premium service, like I thought it was. So it's probably going to be even more lame because it's not going to be as gory as it could be. But then again, Hannibal was on cable.
NBC, but NBC's a little more spicy
could
than
just be a sour Sally right now.
CBS.
Yeah,
I feel like it. I don't know why, but
I don't
like
know.
they're more spicy.
I guess we'll see. So maybe one of us should check out the Clarice TV show to see if it's worth watching.
Fair.
We'll leave that up to Kat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Kat can watch
if she hates it, I'll
Then
watch it.
you'll watch it, yeah. And then if I say I like it, then you're going to be like, pass.
I mean, like, it's awesome. And I'll be like, that must be terrible.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, Clarice is coming on soon. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Season 2 on Nickelodeon actually premieres this Friday at 8 p.m. So that's, if you are a 34-year-old man that's going to watch a TV show intended for children between the ages of 10 and 15, like I am.
You know what he's going to watch before?
Hey, it's Are You Afraid of the Dark? What are you going to do? And I'm going to read some Goosebump books the entire day. Abso-fucking-lutely.
Like Liam Neeson and Ted when he says, "Are these tricks specifically for kids?"
Yeah. Am I led to believe that tricks are specifically for children?
What was his name?
Liam Neeson.
No, it's
Neeson.
You almost
Liam Neeson.
See,
yes,
I didn't even have to try.
She caught herself,
but
there,
the first
so
time she said Liam Leeson.
Liam Liesel.
Whatever.
The tape will tell.
Tape will tell.
Fine.
Tape
it's
will
fine.
tell. Also, Andrew. So I don't know if you've seen the commercials for this, or not. There's not even commercials for Netflix, but I guess the trailers for this.
You mean the ones that just start up for no reason?
Yeah, exactly. So when you are on Netflix, they have been highly advertising this documentary series they're coming out with that was done by the same people that did the Ted Bundy tapes, which, Kat, you and I watched, and
I liked it.
Fucking awesome. It was great. They're doing a new documentary series on the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. And have you ever heard, Andrew, I ask you, of the Elisa Lam viral tape? Do you know the story of that? That's what this is about.
I like how you went from Silence of the Lambs to Lambs, and then we're going to go to more Lambs later.
It's what they call a segue, my friends.
It's like a trifecta.
My background in
I have not heard
radio
about that,
coming through. Okay. So essentially the story for that is, I forget what year it was, but it was recent. Recent enough that there was surveillance footage in the elevator. But there's this swanky, old school, very Hollywood, very Los Angeles hotel in Los Angeles called the Cecil Hotel. And a few years back, there was this young woman named Elisa Lam that the last video footage of her seen alive went viral because she was in an elevator at this hotel, and the whole time she's in there, she's like walking around, pacing back and forth. Seems like she's talking to someone, but there's nobody in the elevator. The doors open, and she is like peeking out of the elevator around each corner, like looking for somebody, just acting completely strange. And she walks out of the elevator, and the next time she's seen, she's found dead in the most impossible place to get to on the roof of the hotel, like a water tower type thing. She's found in there. It was the inspiration for the hotel season of American Horror Story, and they're now doing a documentary series, like 4 episodes on Netflix. I cannot fucking wait to watch this.
It sounds really fucking weird.
It's super weird. So if you go on YouTube and you search for Elisa Lam video, you can watch it, and it's...
So you don't think that
obviously it's real,
mentally insane?
Well, that's so.
But it's where she got herself.
Exactly, and so that's what this documentary series is about, right? So there's 2 different schools of thought on what happened to her. One, and what I think probably many people think, is that she had some sort of psychotic break, and God knows what happened. Other people say that it's some sort of paranormal or supernatural thing that happened to her, and that's, I don't know, I guess either of those 2 things. You make the decision. Watch the Netflix documentary.
I would watch that.
Yeah, so it looks awesome. I can't wait to watch it. I know we were talking about it earlier with Smitty and Craig, and it's like if you watch the YouTube video, it's out there. It's got like 28 million views. It's insane to watch. It's very creepy. It's like, probably creepier to me than most of the stuff we talk about on this show.
Yeah.
Because it actually fucking happened.
Do you know what side the documentary stands on in this?
I have no idea.
Because I'm interested in that fact,
I have no clue.
Too.
So I know the trailers have shown that there's, they talk about the paranormal stuff. They also talk about the fact that, there's some skeptics on there as well, I guess is what I meant to say. So, yeah, that's on Netflix right now. As of this recording, you'll be able to go on Netflix and watch it right now. So
beautiful. I know what I'm
doing. Go
and
check out that. I think it's called Crime Scene, the Cecil Hotel, or something like that.
Named after
it's on Netflix.
Cecil Fielder.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, exactly. So transitioning into news here, you guys. We were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier, but I think the biggest thing that I found out over the last week was that coming in the fall of this year, 2021, there's going to be a documentary series, or not a documentary series, but a documentary movie based on the creation, rise, and fall of Spooky World, which any of you that listen to our show know that we actually covered Spooky World, Nightmare New England, up in New Hampshire. This past October, we had a good time doing it, but obviously COVID had a huge effect on the product. But this documentary is going to be based on the original America's Horror Theme Park, quote unquote, that was back in Berlin, Massachusetts in the 90s and kind of launched that whole thing. So it's such a cool idea that this is actually going to be done, because there should be a documentary based about it, because it's some cool stuff. But they're going to have interviews with the original owner of the park, a guy named David Bertolino, people that work there, fans that went, and it's executive produced by Tom Savini, who used to make appearances there at Spooky World signing autographs. I mean, look at the poster behind you. They had Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger. They had the guy that played the Leatherface. They had Elvira, Tom Savini, Linda Blair from The Exorcist, Alice Cooper, and a bunch of other shit. So it was a pretty cool place to be, and I was lucky enough to go back in the 90s. There's also a podcast that's leading up to the release of this documentary. It's going to be, I think they're going to do at least one a month or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but kind of a cool thing to hear, especially with such big Hollywood firepower behind it. This is a haunted attraction that we went to like a few months ago. It's pretty cool if they're going to do this about it.
Yeah,
obviously, it's
absolutely.
in a different location. It's different now. It's been all over the place, but I don't know. I know I talked a lot about that. I can wax nostalgically about Spooky World all day. But what do you think?
I've always loved Spooky World. I remember going there as a kid, too. I feel like it was a thing to go when I was in high school and stuff. I remember one of the things. I think I went at some point. I don't know if it was in Berlin, but I was younger, and it wasn't. It may have been a Gillette, but
so
it may not have
Berlin
been.
Was far. It was far from, like, the Boston area. Like, I remember my uncle used to take me when I was going in the 90s, and it was at least it was past Worcester, so it's at least an hour and a half, probably closer to 2 hours, I would think.
Maybe I went to the one Gillette then. I don't remember.
And that's the other thing, too. Yeah, it's been all over the place.
It's been so long since I went there. The one thing I do remember is that Dunkin' Donuts just came out with their mocha lattes, and I remember that they gave us, like, little free samples of mocha lattes, and I was so cold that it was amazing. Yeah. And I just remember that was like my favorite memory of
Dunk's
Spooky
has
World.
always partnered with Spooky World, because there's always like discount tickets at Dunkin' Donuts now and all that. But
and they had a clown house, I remember. They had a couple of different houses. I remember they were like the old school like cutouts that you'd go into and had like a picket fence around it. And like that's what I remember of like going to Spooky World when I was younger.
Yeah. See, I like, this was kind of my introduction to horror, in addition to movies. I had never really been to too many haunted houses, but, like, so when Spooky World opened, I was, like, younger than 10 years old. I was born in 1986, so when it first started, I was going when I was, like, 8 or 9 years old, and I fucking loved it. I was scared shitless, but in a way that was fun, so it was great. I remember it. I remember going. I would kill to find the Polaroid photos I have when I was there. I'll find them someday and I'll put them on our Instagram account. But yeah, the Spooky World documentary coming fall 2021. Pretty fucking awesome. Actually, Andrew, I didn't even ask you about it. Jesus Christ.
Well, I've never been to Spooky World except for
when we went.
Just
really?
now, which is weird.
Oh.
First time I've ever been to Spooky World.
I feel like we probably
wasn't the
already
best
talked
experience.
about that,
so I'd be interested to hear.
I know.
Just to learn more about it.
About what it used to be. And
yeah.
Well,
I mean, what a lineup.
At the time, like, if you look at that poster, there's like 6 different haunted attractions on there. All those celebrities appearing throughout October. So like you can, like I remember like at one point, it's probably at my parents' house. I have a red hockey mask signed by Kane Hodder from when I went there when I was probably like 10, 11 years old.
Look at how cheap it was.
I know. Like, well, yeah. Talk about This is like this poster's from 1996. So that was 25 years ago.
You'll post the poster on social media.
Yeah, I already did.
1850. That's a pretty good get for
all that shit. Good stuff. All right, Andrew. Next news item. We were talking about this earlier. I'll let you kind of take the lead on this. But so Universal is producing a new take on Firestarter, the Stephen King novel, one that I actually haven't read. But you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Did you ever see the original?
I did. Yeah, I've seen the original.
Yeah, I think I've never seen
one of my
bits and
favorite
pieces of
King
it.
things. But
I forgot that's the one that Drew Barrymore was in. Mm-hmm. But I feel like
she has the pyrokinesis, as they say.
Yeah, so she's like a mutant, essentially.
Who can like think
she's an X-Men.
And they essentially try to use her for evil. Almost like a thing, like a Stranger Things kind of.
Yeah. She's 11, but with pyrokinesis, and she's evil.
Yeah, they use her. Yeah, that way. So I think that would be, I don't know, probably be a decent. It's gonna be. You're gonna have to do it.
Well, I know right, they're gonna do. They're gonna do an updated take on it, but obviously, based on the novel by Stephen King, one that I haven't read. The original film, as you mentioned, is famous.
Is that even on your list for one you want to read? Right? Like
no, not really. No? I mean, I honestly like my favorite. I know we've talked about this with Matt before, but like. My favorite King stuff to read are his short stories because he kind of packs the Stephen King punch into like a digestible amount of pages, and you don't have to read a 2,000-page book like It or The Stand.
That's what I was saying about
my
the
attention
Gunslinger.
Span for most, like for reading, I feel like is not as long as I want it to be. So I can't sit down and read a 2,000-page book. It would take me 2 fucking years right now. So
well, also look at the Gunslinger trilogy that he wrote, or not trilogy, like. What's 8 books or some shit?
So The
first one is like a novella.
I read the first
easy
one.
Read. I read the first one, and then I saw
how
long the books were getting. I was like, Craig read all of them. I'm like, because Craig read all the Lord of the Rings and all those long ass books.
Craig loves fantasy stuff, so I can understand that. I can understand that. So this movie, this new take on Firestarter, is starring a guy named Michael Greyeyes, who is, I guess, from what I have seen, famous for the 3rd season of True Detective, one of my favorite all-time TV shows. It's also starring Zac Efron in the new Firestarter.
He's supposed to be in a villainous role.
That's pretty awesome.
Which makes, I mean, he did a pretty good job as...
I liked him a lot as Ted Bundy. That movie didn't get great reviews.
The movie wasn't...
I liked it. I thought it was good.
I thought it was a little too... romanticized.
Yeah, they kind of made him look like a fucking a hunk, and it was
well, you picked
tough.
Zac Efron, so you're like,
of course. Zac Efron's probably one of the best looking guys on the planet.
Ted Bundy was average looking. Wasn't the greatest looking dude in the world.
I think it was they kind of romanticized him a little bit because he was eloquent and he dressed nicely and he was kind of like the guy next door. And he,
you know what I thought
like
was interesting though? So I don't know if you've seen it. Did you watch that Night Stalker documentary?
I still haven't seen that.
All right,
either.
so that one.
No.
So at the end of that one, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it, it's been out for a while. He gets arrested. The story of the Night he gets
Stalker,
arrested for shitload of murders, and he's in
spoiler. He's in jail.
He's got fucked up teeth. He is not an attractive person.
Yeah.
And the amount of women that showed up in the courtroom in love with him, showing him his tits, like wanting to be killed by him essentially because you'd have sex and then he'd murder you. But I was like, so it's not. It has nothing to do with appearance. It's all just. They're corrupted.
It's like
it's the same reason people
there's
love,
a certain sequence of people that are drawn to this mystere and this fucking
the same people that are drawn
personality
to Hitler, essentially
exactly crazy
Charles
people.
Manson, all those.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like
the other guy, Joe. What's his name? The most the Kool-Aid one. Fuck's his name?
Yeah, the guy. I know what you're talking about. The cult. Yeah, drink the Kool-Aid.
Jones, something Jones.
Oh, the Jonestown Massacre.
What's his name? Fucking
Jim Jones. Jim Jones. Yeah, Jim Jones.
It's not Tom Jones.
Not Tom Jones.
Could
Tom Jones, I think, is the Las
But
Vegas.
yeah, they have like all these people follow them, and they're insane because there's that many insane people out there. So it's not that.
That actually ties directly into what we're going to talk about tonight.
Exactly.
Yes.
But what do you think about Zac Efron playing a villain in Firestarter? Kind of cool. Like to see
Wait,
Zac Efron in a villain role in a Stephen King story.
Yeah, I think he'd be. Pretty sexy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's pretty sexy no matter what he does.
I'm down with seeing him.
I'm solid enough with my manhood to admit that he's a handsome man. So
he'd be a great villain.
Okay.
I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think. Well,
he's a stud.
Yeah,
100%.
I think. Well, yeah, and that's kind of what he brings to the table of like.
He's not a terrible actor either.
No, he's not at
bad,
all.
Actually,
he's not. No. So I mean, I'd be hands down Zac Efron villain.
Hands down on Zac Efron.
Yeah.
Hands down on his.
I wouldn't blame you for that. It's totally fine.
That was an accident that she said.
A few quick hitters before we get into tonight's movie. Couple quick things. So we always talk about theme park attractions and haunted attractions and blah, 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 and XYZ.
Blah, blah, blah.
So there's a theme park in Malaysia called SkyWorlds, which means, unfortunately, I'll probably never get there. They are making attractions in an entire section of their theme park based on Alien and Predator.
Wow.
How fucking awesome does this sound? Let me lay this out for you.
Time out. Can you go back? Where is this?
Malaysia.
Oh, okay.
Malaysia. So they are doing apparently you can look up like the behind the scenes footage of this, but they're doing a drop tower ride similar to the Tower of Terror based on Aliens. And they're also doing a coaster/dark ride hybrid similar to the Mummy at Universal Studios, Florida. That is an Alien versus Predator type ride. How fucking dope does that shit sound? Why is this not in America?
Can I be honest, though?
Yes.
Those sound way more terrifying, strictly based off the fact that I can't imagine that Malaysia has similar... Malaysia.
Malaysia.
Call it whatever you want.
No, it's not M-E, it's M-A.
Malaysia.
They probably don't have as strict laws regarding safety on a ride or an attraction.
This is you got to think, though, too, that these movie studios are giving the rights to their movies for a ride based on their properties. So these have to be big-time safety protocols, big-time everything, budget, all that shit. So I can understand your idea there, but I think it's probably well taken care of.
Well, that's refreshing.
Yeah. Kat, what about you? Would you go on Alien and Predator rides? I
would
fucking
go on
would.
Them.
I think so. Mm-hmm. But my first thought is that one of my really good friends lives over there, and that why don't we tell him to go and check it out while he's over there?
Shit. Well, it's not open yet. It's not opening for like another... If he's going to be there for a long time, it's not opening for another like 8 months or something like that.
Oh, 8 months? He'll still be there.
Dog.
Can you imagine that, though?
So, basically...
I would love to talk to him about it if he went.
This is how I imagine that Tower of Terror ride you're talking about. It's based off of either Predator or Alien or both.
It's aliens, apparently, xenomorphs in that
so
ride.
So instead of so you're going through the ship, and then you get to the end, and it's what's the end? Is you're sucked out like the alien?
Maybe, yeah.
That'd be cool if you could do that.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. But yeah, just cool stuff. I understand that all the major theme parks in America, they're trying to draw families. But dude, you trying to tell me if they put an Alien or an Alien versus Predator ride at Universal Studios Florida or Disney World that people wouldn't come and do that? Are you kidding me?
Oh, they absolutely would. But I think you have to just advertise it like that instead of doing Alien Encounter, where people are just like, oh, this looks like a great wholesome ride, which is probably exactly why they don't do an Alien versus Predator.
Glad. Well, actually, fun fact.
About this.
Fun fact: the xenomorph alien in a scene from Alien was actually in the Great Movie Ride at Disney MGM Studios back from the 80s when it opened until the early 2000s.
Talk about a ride that
closed.
Sucks ass.
I never actually went on that ride, but I would have just gone just to see Ripley fighting the xenomorph.
That wasn't on when I went.
No?
No, that was the most boring ride in the world. It was like the Wright brothers flying planes. It was really cool.
What?
No, the concept of that ride for the time is very cool. The way they did it, because it's all robotronics. It's not like CG. Everything now, it's like you talk about these Alien Predator things. What's going to be CGI? What's going to be Vince Lombardi at the Super Bowl?
So I think this is those were meant to from everything I was reading. Those are supposed to be animatronics, actually full realized
so
figures.
That
so
I
it's
can
not,
get into.
Yeah, not screens, not virtual reality, anything like that. It's actually physical figures.
That would bother me.
Yeah, it'd be dope. So, all right, so yeah, Alien and Predator rides going to Malaysia. So if you're in Malaysia and you're listening, what up?
Which actually, we have
go on those rides and then come talk to us. Go talk to us.
Not far away from this, so maybe.
Sorry if I insulted you.
That's okay. I don't think you insulted anyone.
No, maybe we can convince our friend to go on that ride. I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem doing that if that was the case.
I don't think so.
I talk shit when we get rides built out in Springfield, Massachusetts. Those are probably
would be amazing.
Just as dangerous.
All right, so we already talked about the Are You Afraid of the Dark Season 2 premiere that's coming Friday. Set your DVR. Also,
Mike's very excited about that.
I am.
Mentioned it twice now.
Yep. Last thing. So, something that's pretty cool and nostalgic for me and Andrew, I'm sure you're probably in the same boat, but so the Ghostbusters YouTube channel. Ghostbusters, obviously,
they had a YouTube
awesome
channel.
movie. They have a YouTube channel that basically shows all kinds of clips and premieres and trailers and all that shit. So, and also clips from the old movies. Obviously, there's a new Ghostbusters movie coming out this summer called Ghostbusters Afterlife, but they are releasing every week on their YouTube channel for free episodes of the Real Ghostbusters, which is the 80s cartoon that ran from 86 to 91. And then the Extreme Ghostbusters, which ran later than that. Each episode of the show for free every week on YouTube.
Is there anything better than an Ecto Cooler?
I love Ecto Cooler. That's why I love, shout out to Second Wind.
I was just going to say that. Shout out to
Ecto Coolers, their Power Sour is so unbelievable. The can design is phenomenal. I love getting that beer because I just drink the shit out of it, and it's so good.
It gives me horrible heartburn, but it's delicious.
It's so good. It's so good. Honestly, it has such awesome flavor. It's worth the heartburn. It's worth the omeprazole.
Absolutely.
For sure. So yeah, that's what I got for news. Are you guys ready to roll into some Apostle action? All right, that means we are on to our movie of the night, our topic du jour. And I am so happy to say that for the first time in a while, I am not driving the bus right now. I am going to hand the reins over to one of my friends, my co-host, one AJ Bears. Andrew.
You know what? I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to just try and keep the bus on the road here. I'm going to be like Kramer in that episode of Seinfeld. He's on the bus with the...
With the mailman?
No, with the mugger.
Punch him up and now I'm driving.
And he's like, you're Batman.
You're Batman. You're Batman.
I'm going to be Batman. I'm not going to be just trying to keep the bus on the road.
Nice.
I'm excited to watch Batman in action tonight, so...
We'll see what happens.
Go on with the chlorophyll, Mr. Andrew.
Go on with the chlorophyll.
Go ahead, my friend.
Tonight's movie is a little old movie from 2018 called Apostle. It's a Netflix original movie that they made. XYZ Productions, who does a lot of weird movies that I think... I know The Void is an XYZ production movie.
Oh, is that?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
They did The Invitation. The Invitation.
Oh, I love that movie.
So they do a lot of foreign films. I believe they did... So the director is Gareth Evans. He's known for The Raid, which I've never seen. Mm-hmm. Have you guys seen that?
I don't think so.
Never seen The Raid.
The Raid
I know movie people are going to be like, oh my god, you haven't seen The Raid.
And I think XYZ made these movies, and he also did a segment from VHS 2 called Safe Haven, which...
I know we're gonna
as soon as I saw that, for some reason it lit a bulb in my head. Because I was like, I feel like I've seen this before. And then I remembered, I asked Mike, I called Mike, I was like, I'm pretty sure you love this segment. You're like, yeah, I showed it to you. And then I was like, as I was watching it, I saw more of it. And that was a very frightening segment. Very much like, I would say, The Void. And potentially even, like, this movie has elements of that in it. But I'll let Mike talk about that more because he's buff on that episode or segment.
Yeah. So, I guess spoiler alert.
This is so old you can just talk about it.
Well, I was just saying for me personally. So I am a huge fan of the VHS anthology horror series. Mm-hmm. I would recommend to anyone, if you have not watched VHS, VHS 2, VHS Viral, I think was the third one. They're doing a new one too. Go watch them because, hey, listen, it's an anthology series. Not every single one of them is a winner, but there are some gems in there, and there is no better of a gem that you can find than from VHS 2. It's a segment called Safe Haven, as you mentioned, Andrew. It's directed by the same guy that directed this movie, the Apostle, Gareth Edwards. British guy, I believe?
Evans.
Gareth Evans. Evans. There's a Gareth Edwards, and there's a Gareth Evans.
I mean, how many Gareths are there? There can't be
lots of Gareth with an E last name, and you're British. Gareth, that's tough for me to just.
It's like VJ. You hear the name VJ, you just think of VJ Singh.
Yeah. But so this segment of VHS, it's a weird concept, but essentially it's a group of documentary filmmakers in somewhere in Asia. But essentially what they do, they're going to film this cult that is this controversial cult, and when they go in there, everything seems fine. Everything's kind of a little bit strange, but there's nothing going on, and all of a sudden this alarm goes off, and all this weird shit starts happening. And the leader of this cult all of a sudden like explodes into a bloody pulp, and then there's a demon, and there's all this stuff. And Gareth Edwards, right? Evans directed this segment, and I won't spoil the ending for you because it's fucking phenomenal. But if you haven't seen this, 1, watch all the VHS movies, and 2, watch Safe Haven, because it's awesome. All the movies are great, and they're produced by Bloody Disgusting, which I've actually happened to contribute to, so go check it out on Twitter. We'll mention the handle at the end of the show. But yeah, that was the best portion of all the VHS movies was Safe Haven from VHS 2. Have to say.
I did enjoy that one a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm one person that needs to watch VHS from start to finish because I don't think
I feel like I've been trying to get you to watch the VHS movies as long as you've been trying to get me to watch Kill List, which I will watch Kill List. It's on your list of movies for this year.
Yeah,
so
I almost wanted to do that one, but then I was like, it's a lot easier. This movie's on Netflix. It's available. People can watch it after they listen. Hopefully it stays. I don't know how long it's supposed to be on there for, but
it's a Netflix movie, so it's going to be on there forever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right. Back to it. So we're talking Apostle, which, as we discussed, was directed by Gareth Evans. And I got to give a shout out to Matt Flannery, the cinematographer for this movie, because the cinematography in this movie almost makes this movie,
unbelievable,
in my mind, that much better. Did you enjoy the way it was shot, Kat?
I did, actually. That was kind of a way that that was the reason I liked the movie, the way that it was shot, because it captured different angles, which was kind of nice. It wasn't shot from, like, a one-person view. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's just beautifully shot.
Yeah.
Some of the scenery, it's just...
Oh, my God. Well, yeah, wherever they film...
It makes you feel like you're in the movie. That's what that type of cinematography does, and that's why I like those types of movies so much, because it's more of a... You're getting more feeling than just, happy or sad. You're getting, like, a visceral type of feeling that's just...
No, I agree.
Is that the word?
Visceral?
Yeah, visceral. I know what you mean there. Yeah, visceral is the right word, for sure.
I assume you enjoyed the cinematography.
Good word.
Oh, hell yeah.
The visuals are stunning.
It looked like, so they're meaning it to take place on I think like the actual story was like a Welsh island. And it looks like that. It looks like they're on like this random island.
Absolutely.
Very green, very blue. Everything's perfect. It looks great. It's
and even in the end,
it's almost like they built the set on that island. It's like the same way The Witch, those types of movies. I feel like if you're going to get really weird with a movie, you got to give it like, it has to be that constant. It just feels foreboding, like the visuals. It's like constantly something bad is going to happen.
If we're talking about this set, exactly, I thought the cool part about the end. Spoiler alert! When they're getting into the boat and half of like the mountain or the like cliff kind of like explodes out.
Oh yeah,
was so cool because you didn't really expect it at all.
Yeah,
because then you feel
that wasn't like CGI. That was
was
real. That's what these movies. I give movies that do that 100% more credit, especially now in age when it's so much easier and so much. I don't actually know if it's cheaper. I think it might be just as expensive to have someone do like really good CGI for a movie. So,
probably.
But I give more credit to this because it takes a lot more effort.
Well, yeah, and then you're actually destroying like a cliff.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Fuck Mother Earth.
But
I feel like this is the type of movie though where there would not be much CGI required.
You couldn't do
Everything
it.
seems so practical in this. Like, everything.
Yeah, it would stand out like a sore thumb if you did it. It would ruin the movie.
Agreed. 100%.
So I'm glad you guys appreciate that. So that was a shout out to Matt Flannery. He did his other movies, but I haven't seen those, so we're not going to talk about them. Same thing with a lot of the actors in this movie, with the exception of a couple. Like, they looked familiar, and then I was like, I don't know you from anything. Like the main guy, who plays Thomas Richardson, Daniel Stevens. Mm-hmm. He was in like a couple episodes of Downton Abbey. But I've never watched Downton. I've never seen that show. Have you?
I haven't.
Have not.
No desire.
I've seen like an episode or two, but not. I never watched it. Like it was never a thing. And it's so funny because like I like The Crown and like other like Bridgerton. And
For some reason, anytime I try to watch shows that take place in Europe, I fall asleep.
Really? Oh, I
think it's because their voices are so soothing to hear.
I could probably binge Downton Abbey. Isn't that on? That's on Prime, right? Is it free on Prime?
I thought Downton Abbey was on Netflix, but
no, it's not on Netflix.
No.
I don't
think it's Prime. It's definitely not Hulu. That's for sure.
No, but I don't know if you have to buy it on Prime or not.
I think you probably can watch it.
Huh? Maybe
I don't know.
that's
regardless. Fuck that show. I don't want to watch that show.
It's okay. Anyways, sorry.
So you mentioned like how good the acting was in this movie, and I like that was one of the bullet points that I had about this. Like this movie would be nothing without the actors, right? So Dan Stevens is awesome. Michael Sheen is awesome. Lucy Boynton, our friend from The Blackcoat's daughter, who plays Rose.
You know who you were talking about earlier?
Who?
Rami Malek.
Oh, Rami Malek. Yep,
that's her husband.
No shit.
I think so.
Okay. That's right. Because we mentioned in the Blackcoat's daughter episode. They were both in Bohemian Rhapsody, and they've been dating since. Now they're probably married.
Which is where she's from.
Yeah, great. Yeah, they're all good. Like I feel like the acting makes this movie because there's really not a lot going on other than the actors. I feel like for most of it.
I think the dialogue's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the tension. So I don't think this movie is strictly reliant upon its actors. But if you have mediocre actors in this, it's terrible.
Yeah, I agree.
But with that being said, having said that, it still has a lot more than just its acting. So I feel like that's 100%.
I agree that it has more than its acting, but I just personally feel like the acting is the strong point of this movie.
100%.
But I mean,
it has to be.
So Andrew, you always talk about watching movies with the subtitles on. Mm-hmm. I feel like this was a movie that we should have watched with subtitles.
Oh, you didn't watch with subtitles?
No, because I honestly
because if they don't speak,
there are certain things
I can't even understand myself. I don't even know what I'm saying. So I need subtitles during regular life would be great. If I could buy glasses that instead of having a computer on them, just gave me subtitles to what other people were saying, how cool would that be?
Google's working on that.
For subtitles?
So the Google Pixel Buds that I have right now, they supposedly, if you are in a place where someone speaks a foreign language, you can turn them on live mode, and your earbuds will actually like translate in real time what this person is saying.
Oh, that's amazing!
So I don't know when I'll get to test that out, but like if we ever go back to Mexico and someone's speaking Spanish, I can put them on.
I would just go, Baxter. You know I don't speak Spanish.
Wait, but if you turned them on, then you'd get all these conversations. It would be obnoxious.
Well, I guess they focus in on like the best audio quality. So if like you're sitting with somebody like one-on-one, it can pick that up and detect it.
But what if you're just walking by a bunch of people in Mexico?
I don't know. You wouldn't turn it on then. Obviously, you could.
It would be insane.
I'm sure it probably wouldn't work as well in that scenario. But hey.
If only it told you.
I know what I wanted to say. I had one more thing I wanted to bring up to you guys.
Yes.
Kat, I know you haven't because I don't think I watched it with you. But Andrew, have you ever seen a movie called The Guest?
So just skip it.
No.
So just skip it.
If I've seen it, it's one of those movies I didn't remember because I was probably turned it on before I went to sleep.
It's a Blumhouse low-budget movie starring Dan Stevens, the lead guy from this movie, where he basically is a Afghanistan or Iraq war veteran, comes back saying that he is helping the family of his fallen comrade, co-soldier, whatever you want to call it, and he's just a fucking badass, and he kicks the shit out of a million people. It's an awesome movie. It's actually on Netflix right now. It's called The Guest, with him in it.
Is that subtitled?
No, it's in English.
Oh.
It's in English.
I like subtitles.
But yeah, so he's great in that. But sorry, I know you were talking about Dan Stevens and Lucy Boynton and Michael Sheen and all the actors.
Well, I think it's interesting that you said that there's some movies, like the movie we just did. No. What movie did we just do where it was literally like two characters you had to think of? Misery. That was like two people.
Misery,
You needed to keep track of two characters.
There was Annie Wilkes.
Way too many characters in this movie.
James Caan.
So
and
I
the
cut
sheriff.
the fat.
Yeah.
I always there's four. You can't have more than four. The other people are just afterthoughts, and they're still main characters in a semblance. But you can't worry about those. But for the majority, I thought it was interesting because I looked. Michael Sheen, Mark Lewis Jones, who plays Quinn, Paul Higgins plays Frank. Mm-hmm. He's Jeremy's father. They all have a lot of experience in theater. Mm-hmm. Like, most of their careers
look like
were spent as being theatrical actors. And one of them wrote a play, so they have...
Which one wrote a play?
Frank. He wrote a play, which I thought was interesting, because this could be like the sequel to this movie. It's called Nobody Will Ever Forgive Us, which is essentially what him and his, Malcolm and Quinn could say about themselves.
Yeah.
But a lot of theater background. Michael Sheen, who played Malcolm, he was in Frost Nixon. Did you ever see that?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I saw it once.
And I was watching this. Every time I watched the movie, I was like, he doesn't really... He looks a lot different now, but you can still see it. Because that movie was, 12 years old?
It was, at least 10 years ago.
And then he was in that show on Showtime. I never watched it, Masters of Sex.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
He also produced that show, too. So, and then the other guy wrote a play. The other guy was in Quinn. He looks like I've seen him in a billion movies, but every movie he's been in, I'm like, I've never seen that. He's just got one of those faces where he's phenomenal in this movie. Like you said, the acting is...
Oh, it's great.
Top notch.
It's amazing.
That's the best part of the movie. I feel like, obviously, there's some supernatural stuff that goes on, but that sells it. That sells it for me.
Most of it. And even... We're not even talking about the secondary actors like Fionn and Jeremy and... the guy in the beginning of the movie that gets killed in his place. Like, the acting, even the secondary actors and actresses...
they do a great job.
...are phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is great.
What's the guy's name with the blue eyes again?
Dan Stevens.
Thomas?
Yeah, Dan Stevens. Dan Stevens is the actor's name in real life.
Okay, and Thomas is the one who has the ransom for his sister's
Thomas.
thing.
Thomas is his name in the movie.
Same guy.
Thomas is the name in his movie. Daniel Stevens is the actor that plays him.
All right,
yes.
fair.
So what about him?
No, I was just going to say
you just thought he was really attractive.
He did a really good job, and he was
he did a really
very
good job
attractive.
because he was really hot.
I love when he was doing opium or heroin or whatever the fuck he was dropping under his tongue.
He was like... He kind of reminded me of Sawyer from Lost in that straggy.
He's a good-looking dude.
He's a great-looking dude, and I told her last night because she was actually asking me what else he had. Well, she's like, "Why do I recognize him from somewhere?" And I said, "A, he looks like Calvin Harris, literally exactly like Calvin Harris."
He also looks
and B, go aahead.
He looks like an older version from one of the guys from the 100, and I don't know who it is, but I was watching the 100 at one point, just as background, whatever, Netflix show, and I think one of the actors from there, I didn't even look this actor up, so I have no idea. There's no way, because he looks way older than the actor from the 100, so there's no way they could be the same person.
It's not.
Have the same
it's probably
kind
not,
of,
yeah.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, no, they have the same kind of, facial features. That's why I thought it was kind of similar, but... no, he was awesome. He's attractive.
Yeah,
Lo siento. And
you don't have to apologize. He's a good-looking guy.
He did a great job in this entire movie, from start to finish. As his whole character evolved and stuff. It was awesome to watch.
He did a great job playing the guy that is not there for any bullshit. He's there to get his sister and get the fuck out. What do
Absolutely.
I have? I have a younger sister. I could totally picture myself in his position. And I actually thought, one of the most interesting things about the movie they never really touched on, unless you have something symbolism-wise, but, the beginning of the movie when it shows him in the office of his clearly wealthy family's home, and he's talking to some shithead about his father who's now brain dead or whatever. like put your differences aside with your father and go help your sister.
Obviously, like you'd feel
and the more you become to know
like that's like
who he is as a character, it makes more sense.
Exactly,
which they do a great job of not giving away until like the end of the movie. Like, you don't really know who he is till the end, and it's all at the end.
Did you want to talk about that flashback later, or do you want?
We'll get into the flashback a little bit later. I don't think we need to get into it now. We don't want to. We want to get through the the general gist of it and kind of just skim our way across, because I think like we all have agreed, this is a slow burn. If you can get through the first hour, it's, to me, so on the same lines as this, it's a cult like movie. It's got a lot of cult tendencies. There's other movies that it reminded me of. The main one obviously is The Wicker Man. Everyone says that. Easy, yes, The Wicker Man.
Even Midsommar
doesn't finish that way.
Midsommar,
but it's up there. It's it's the same type as Midsommar. The one I thought it kind of drew me to the most, and it's a weird comparison, but it's in another level. And no one likes this movie. And Mother.
Mother. I liked Mother with Jennifer Lawrence. Right?
I hated Mother.
Yeah, it was one of those art housey fucking movies. But I feel like this movie is a mix between that and Hereditary. Like, it's got like a slight combination.
I can see what you're saying. I would just say, of Ari Aster's two movies, I would think it would be more of a comparison to Midsommar or Midsummer, whatever I hate calling it Midsommar.
But the whole, if you look at
I like Midsommar.
It's the only thing good about the movie.
Yeah, that's the name.
Midsommar. Anyway, so that's, I just thought it was kind of interesting. I also like how this movie has a lot of, it's not a monster movie, but it has some monster elements to it, which I think Mike probably appreciated the most.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. And it I mentioned to you before, this movie takes a little while to get going, but when it does, whoo boy!
It's up there with gore.
Yeah,
it's a disgusting movie.
Fucked.
So I'm almost positive. I told you this last night. I'm almost positive that I saw this movie like right after it came out, but I was kind of like not paying as much attention as I should have. And watching it last night, I was really paying attention to it, and I forgot how fucked this movie is. This movie is so fucked. And it's funny because we were figuring out when we wanted to watch it, or rewatch it for me, and Kat was watching it for the first time. And I just remember, one of the first things I thought of, I was like, we should not watch this while eating. We should probably wait to watch it until after.
But it wasn't that gory at that point.
Oh, I watched it with a few cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
And a lot of ketchup.
There was, certain points that it was gory, but it wasn't really towards the end.
It was a very,
it would have been fine.
I don't want to say...
What I mean to say is this is
for a dinner date.
Would you call this a very gory movie?
Oh.
Then that's all I'm trying to say.
It was gory.
That's all I'm trying to say.
That movie was gory for at least a quarter of the time.
It's not as gory as it could be.
It's not gory throughout the entire movie. They save it all for the end.
Exactly.
And they give you the gore. But there's other elements of gore in there which aren't really there, but they're still fucked up. There's a lot of fucked up shit.
Absolutely.
Well, one of my biggest problems with the movies when we get to nitpicks, I think you probably know what I'm going to say.
I know what your nitpick is, but I love your nitpick because that element to a movie makes the movie so much better, because that just shows you that they really don't give a fuck about you.
All right, cool. So where are we at? You want to talk about some... where are we at? You want to talk about 2018 horror movies, or you want to keep going?
I was going to save that for the end. Do we do that at the end?
We can do it at the end.
I can do it now. No, you never do it at the beginning.
I did not mean to interrupt your flow. Where are you at? Go ahead. Don't even pretend like I'm talking. Go ahead.
So we were going to get into the movie.
Yes.
So, it's an interesting movie.
Dig it in.
Dig in. So, like Mike was saying in the first scene of the movie, Thomas, who was at his father's estate, clearly has a beef with the dad. The dad's rich, got a lot of money. I'm assuming that the beef between the father and the son is the fact that the father probably was very wealthy off of owning business and being involved in greed and money, which is kind of the opposite of what this cult believes in, which I think plays a part in the movie. But, so the father's obviously involved in greed, and I don't want to spoil the end of the movie, though, so...
Well, we've already spoiled the beginning of the movie, so keep going.
We're almost an hour into this, so yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, so... The son is, as we've come to find out, is a missionary. He was, preaching Christ's message in Peking, and he had a very bad
during
experience
the Boxer Rebellion.
He renounced his own God, religion, everything because he was left there and tortured. And it's this guy's story. And now he's doped up on drugs. He finds out that he has to go save his sister from a cult on an island.
Yes,
looking for a ransom from the father, where the estate clearly doesn't want to give the money. Why wouldn't they just give them the money? They clearly don't care about her.
Can I ask you a question?
You can ask as many questions as you like.
What is he doped up on the entire time?
It's either opium or heroin.
Yeah.
So why is he doped up? He's limping.
Because
so
he has
why?
PTSD.
Yeah.
It's like Do
you remember the scene where he got the cross burned into his back?
Yes. Well,
yes.
So is that what it's from?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's almost.
So he's taking.
See, there's another element of it that I didn't even realize you brought that up. It's almost an element of today's environment. You know, they play into a lot of relevant issues. You know,
right?
With
because
opioids
it's 2018
being an addiction, and the guy had a traumatic thing happen to him.
Right. And I had no idea because obviously this seems like it's being taken place in the when?
It takes place in 1904.
Right.
1905.
And at that point, so if you have fought in some sort of war, which at that point...
He was a missionary. He didn't fight in a war.
Yeah, so he didn't fight in a war.
Sorry.
So literally during the Boxer Rebellion, he was a priest that was sent over to China to try and convert Chinese people to Christianity.
Yes.
And this is what
which
they did to him.
was why they showed the scene where him getting the cross burned into his back.
Yes. Okay.
Because he was coming over to try and... No. It's fine. There's no need to apologize.
Okay.
That's what it was.
So he obviously finds out that his sister there's a ransom on her head, and they're like, don't pay them. Which is smart on their part, because if he did pay him, he would have been fucked. If he was just some average idiot that they sent over, but he obviously has experience, he always you can tell he's a skeptic. The way he thinks is the way a skeptic thinks. Mm-hmm. He's always assuming the worst.
Yeah.
And so when he's lined up, so he gets, obviously they sent him some sort of invitation to join this cult on this island, that you need to bring the invitation to the boat that's going to bring you over there. You get your luggage. And interesting enough, he has an invitation. And I don't know if this would have registered with most people, but it registered with him. He notices on the invitation there's a red smudge in the bottom right-hand corner. And he just goes to wipe it off, and he notices that it's obviously stamped on there. It's some sort of stamp, like the mark of death, essentially. Mm-hmm. So he knows if he gets on this boat with this stamp on his invitation, something bad's probably going to happen to him. So he smartly...
Taking the boat across the river Styx, if you will.
Smartly, essentially, yeah, that's his... You got to pay the troll toll.
Pay the troll toll to get into that boy's hole.
So he creates a diversion, distracts some sap, who I felt bad for about 5 minutes. And then I was like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
That guy's the worst. So he switches out invitations. His doesn't have the smudge on him. The other guy gets on the boat with his invitation with the stamp, and they mark his bag, so you know something's going on with this guy. Obviously, They were marking it because they assumed that the money was in that bag, and they wanted that bag, and this was the guy that they were going to... I don't think they were ever going to let him leave.
Probably not. No.
Well, Quinn wasn't.
No.
But the other two may
I feel like most people in that cult, whatever you want to call them, probably cult.
It's a cult.
Most of them knew they couldn't leave, I would say.
Oh, absolutely.
And most of them probably didn't want to leave, but the ones that did knew that it was going to be almost impossible to do so. Yeah,
pretty much. So he figured that out. Jeremy puts his luggage on board for him. He gets on the boat. And one of the most horrifying scenes in this movie, I'm sure it's tattooed in your brain, Kat. When they get on the boat, what happens then?
They're on the boat over to the island, and a baby lamb comes flying out of some cage or something, and Thomas catches the baby lamb, and he's holding the lamb. You don't remember this?
No.
Such a fucked up scene.
And they say, oh no, you're not supposed to catch that, you're supposed to let it go. And they take the baby lamb and they essentially throw it into the ocean.
Okay, I don't remember that.
Yeah, and you know who throws it in the ocean? The guy that he switched bags with. So when that happened, I was like, good. That guy, you just threw that poor lamb in the ocean.
I will say...
Wait, why would I not remember that?
I don't know. Maybe you might have blocked it out because it sucks.
Maybe it was very traumatic.
So if you, like me, I would say, fellow listeners, if I could just inject real quick, if you do not like violence on animals, like I do, I do not like it, I would say this is not a movie for you. This is a pretty violent movie towards animals.
That's the only death of an animal, isn't it?
No, there's another woman there birthing an animal in the stable.
Yeah.
Everybody eats... Yeah, but everyone eats meat.
Well,
no.
So there's that scene with the lamb on the boat.
Like,
then they pull a disformed lamb...
Yeah, but that's not...
baby out of a mother or whatever, and
but that's just natural birth. Oh, yeah,
and then
he
there's
throws it in a bucket like a rat.
One where they pull a rabbit out of a hole and cut the rabbit's throat and put the rabbit's blood into a funnel and shove it into the lady's mouth.
Barn.
The goddess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess long way of saying if you're sensitive to that type of stuff with animals...
definitely don't watch that.
Just know that no animals were harmed during the making of this movie.
It was all fake, but obviously not easy to watch in certain circumstances. I'm sorry. I digress. Okay. All right, so safe to say that we are all, fans of this movie, I should say, to a certain degree or extent. So I guess at this point, Andrew, we should probably talk about some other horror movies that came out in the year of our Lord 2018, which I know you are prepared to discuss, my friend.
Well, there's a good amount of these, and a lot of them I haven't seen. So I took like a brief list of some I have seen, some I haven't, but like everyone talks about. So there was the Halloween 2018 that came out.
Good, not great.
Annihilation, which I don't consider a horror movie.
Really liked it.
It's a good
movie.
It
was good. Yep.
Yeah, monster movie. Bird Box.
Okay.
Decent. Hereditary, obviously, we love that movie.
So that's I think the one other movie that we've covered from this year was Hereditary.
You guys have both seen Mandy, right? I haven't seen that.
We saw
a little bit of it, and then we kind of turned it off because it was.
I ended up watching the rest
too much
of it.
For
yeah,
me.
it was.
It was.
So let me give you the idea of what this movie is. It's one of those movies where it takes an hour for the title card to show up. So it's like.
An hour?
Yeah. But yeah, there's some crazy shit in there. I mean, if you want to watch Nicolas Cage having a chainsaw battle with somebody else, watch it.
Interesting.
I mean, I feel like they marketed Mandy as like this lost episode of like live action Metalocalypse, and it wasn't really that. It was very slow. I feel like if you pay off the slow start and you see what
Mandy
actually
was
happens.
Terrible. I thought it was awful.
It's a little bit better than what Kat is saying, but it wasn't my favorite movie. I'll say that. Sorry for the long-winded action.
That's all right. A Quiet Place.
Yeah, Kat loves that.
I love
she can
A Quiet
talk
Place.
about that one.
The movie's all right.
Oh my god, all right. I was like in the movie
theater. Talk about
theater.
slow.
Oh my god, I was in the movie theater at the edge of my seat the entire time because the entire movie is supposed to be silent.
It's because you're afraid of everything.
No,
including silence. That's why you don't shut up. No, I'm just kidding.
Ooh.
I will say, A Quiet Place was a good. It was probably one of the most unique movie theater going experiences I've ever had.
Oh
because
yeah,
it was honestly it was the most quiet I've ever been. Most quiet movie I've ever been.
Most quiet place you've ever been.
Yeah, probably most quiet place. Yeah, dude, nobody talked the entire movie because usually everyone's like, oh damn, oh. Like filming TikToks and Snapchats and whatever the fuck else. I sound like such an old man right now.
It was so cool to watch it in a movie theater.
I loved seeing that movie in theaters, and I feel like seeing it a second time, it lost its luster a bit, which hurts that movie for me.
Sorry. It's one of those movies you see once, and that's it.
Yeah.
Suspiria, the remake.
Didn't see it.
Yeah.
No, not a huge fan. I don't want to watch a 2.5 hour movie, Suspiria.
The fourth of the Insidious movies.
Yeah, we saw that.
The
Last Key. Good. To be honest,
I don't remember one from the other. To be honest,
I feel like the Insidious movies for me are like pizza or ice cream. None of them are bad. It's always like a nice, comforting thing.
Makes sense. And then you guys both saw
the first Insidious movie is obviously I'd like to cover that in the show someday. I don't think it's in our roadmap for this year, but the first Insidious movie is fantastic.
It could maybe end up in there.
It could be. I know we all picked a list of movies, but
we didn't plan the whole year though.
Yeah, the first Insidious is fantastic, and the sequels are all good to okay. And Insidious: The Last Key, which was the last one supposedly with Lin Shaye, who was in the terrible Grudge remake. She's the one constant character in all of those movies. Like that's like her story. So she's great in that. I liked Insidious: The Last Key. I guess the roundabout way of saying sorry. I have a big mouth.
The Meg.
What else, Andrew?
The Meg.
Yeah.
Oh, the Megalodon?
We saw
that was great.
That's just
Jason Statham punching big sharks.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's like Sharknado, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Any other movies?
Sharknado on a smaller scale. So we talked about Bird Box, talked about Annihilation, movie called Cam, which sucked.
I knew you guys had seen
Oh my
the
god,
movie,
you
but you
made
had
me
told
watch
me
that
that movie
stupid
sucked.
movie.
It sucked. I hated it.
Mike was like, hey, we should really watch this movie Cam. It goes to great reviews.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that
Oh
it's
my
terrible.
god, it was awful. It was so bad.
Honestly, every single time this movie gets brought up, she does this exact same thing.
I would never
I agree
recommend
with her.
anyone to watch
It was totally my choice. But
Yeah, but you didn't know it was
whatever.
bad.
Yeah, it sucked.
It was some
We don't need to
hot
dedicate any more time to Cam because it did suck, and I am agreeing.
Moving on.
The Cloverfield Paradox also
Sucked.
The First Purge, actually pretty good.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Ghost Stories, whiwhich stars Martin Freeman from The Hobbit.
Oh,
Lord of the Rings.
I saw the first segment of that.
Awesome. It's a
So
great movie.
good, and that's what that movie was. That's
Yeah.
a great movie.
Yeah,
I need to
it's actually
rewatch that movie.
and another anthology.
I love anthologies.
Goosebumps 2 with Jack Black. We talked about Hereditary, obviously, on a prior episode. And then a lot of movies with the prefacing the main character. The Nun, The Predator.
Oh, The Nun. That's a Conjuring sequel,
Yep,
right?
that movie sucked. The Predator was disappointing as well. We already talked about Quiet Place. Strangers, Prey at Night, sequel to The Strangers, which we're going to talk about Strangers coming up. Summer of '84, which we saw recently, which was an awesome movie. And that's pretty much it. So
Decent year.
Good year for horror.
Top three? Would it finish top three? Would this finish,
it's good. It's a good year.
would this finish top three in your list of 2018 movies?
No.
No?
Not for me.
Not
this time.
I don't think so either, to be honest.
Not this time.
No, I think
Hereditary is clearly better. I mean, Hereditary is the number one for this year. I liked Summer of '84 better than this movie.
I haven't seen that. I don't think it's better, but
I liked The Predator better than this movie.
Really?
Yep.
You just said that movie sucked.
I liked A Quiet Place better than this movie.
And I also liked Annihilation better than this movie.
And
sorry to say, my friend.
I may have liked Bird Box better than this movie.
Yeah, you can sit down now. You don't ask about fucking Bird Box.
Right. Definitely not.
We're moving on.
Cam
We're moving on.
Cam did suck.
Cat,
I know.
scary?
Cam sucked. All right. Let's roll the
honestly,
categories. Yeah.
Parts of this were very fucking scary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, when he is down in that, like, blood pit thing, and, like, he sees the thing, and then he goes into this pit, and he's just, like, you just look at him, and you're like, oh my god, like, what the fuck is going on? And he's going into these, like, deeper and deeper, like, areas that you don't know where he's going, and you're just like, oh my god. Like, you get that feeling, like, we just did The Descent. It's that exact same feeling that you get from The Descent when he's in that thing with, like, the bloodbath and all the bones.
It's essentially like he's in the
Andrew and I
veins
were
of the
literally
goddess.
talking about that last night, about how the parallels between The Descent and that part of the movie. It's
terrifying. The claustrophobia.
Yep.
Just
and
the
like you're going into this like disgusting water. It's like red blackish like tint. Like,
it was essentially like the old bitch from The Shining chasing you.
Yeah,
a
pretty much. That's a great comparison.
Well, and at first I wasn't sure if she was like before him or after him, because he just all of a sudden she just kind of appeared, and then he ended up in a different place. So I was assuming that he just kept going, and she appeared like behind him. You know what I mean? Because it didn't really. It looked at first that like when he looked forward that she was there, and then he went backward. But then I was like, but then he ended up in a different place. So then I was like, what is that about? So I kind of got lost there for a second. But.
No, I know what you're saying, because when I was watching it, I kind of had some similar thoughts. But yeah, I feel like the way they shot this movie, you're always supposed to be looking over his shoulder when he's going down there.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, okay, is there something behind him? Like, I actually, like, believe it or not, like, I feel like this reminded me in a way of, like, the Blair Witch Project for a certain point. where, like, I feel like if they actually showed a little bit more of what was going on with the Blair Witch Project, it would be something similar to this in terms of, like, the paranormal stuff. I don't know why I'm saying that. I don't know. I just have a feeling.
Well, is that the slight tie-in between his segment in VHS2 with the found footage and this, where he gives you the same sort of feeling? It
might be that type of thing.
Disturbing.
Yeah. I don't know.
That whole scene made, like, talk about me getting scared in movies. That part made me very scared and uncomfortable.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it reminded me of that Shining bitch. That's just all I could think of was her chasing you down the street.
She's just a freaky character.
Oh,
and like there's no way to make that character look any sort of like in a good way. I guess I don't know how else to say it, but like, yikes! The scariest part for me, bar none, was when you knew that kid. What was the kid who
Jeremy?
Jeremy. You knew he was going to get some sort of torture, and it just showed them with this stone tablet that they were going to lay him down on that is pounding these stakes in. And in the background, you see these people in robes with these pointy, tall, black hats. Super creepy. Honestly, like, one of the scenes that probably has creeped me out the most. Like, before you even see any of what actually happens. And I know we're going to talk more about this scene, but that freaked me out. I was just sitting there and I was like, oh my God.
Can we talk about
something bad's gonna happen real quick.
Now that you mention it, because I watched a little bit of the VHS Safe Haven. Mm-hmm. The part where they're clamping his head together and the blood pools over his eyes, and it's from his point of view.
Yep,
that's so good.
Oh, it's so gross.
That gives you that, like, that gives you that. Oh, your brain, you're already crushed. You're done. Like, you're not going to get out.
Yeah,
I feel like, and
that was a moment.
I'm pretty sure I mentioned this, but like the VHS Safe Haven segment, like the found footage element gives it so much more of a gritty, scary feel.
The only problem I have with that is a lot of it feels like a video game. I feel like it's Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's phenomenal. So, I want to get into a really quick note.
Before we do, I should say, just a reminder that today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space, so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your specific audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co. And be sure to add our podcast, which is America's Hometown Horror, in the How Did You Hear About Podgo section of the application. Once again, make sure you add America's Hometown Horror in the How Did I Hear About This Podgo podcast section of the application. And thanks again for listening to our show and supporting our show. All right, so with that being said, Andrew, we are back onto categories. We talked about if shit was scary, I think, right? So what's up next? What are we doing?
I want to get into a real quick no from everyone. Cast replacements. I got none. I wouldn't replace anybody in this movie.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would either, to be honest.
So that's a no. We're moving on.
Yeah, all right.
I'm a no. Yeah,
we need a quick one.
Yeah, all right, fair.
No,
quick.
Nobody stuck out to me. I think that was, again, one of all three of our strong points at the beginning with Dan Stevens, Michael Sheen, Lucy Boynton.
Yeah.
Pick one. They're all good.
Phenomenal. I wouldn't take any of them out. So now we're getting to one which we kind of discussed a little bit. I don't know if it's actually your choice, but your favorite scene of the movie, Kat. Do you have one? Does one more stand out in your mind? We can give you a pass. Bring it back to Mike, and then you go.
Bring it back. Yeah.
Michael.
I mean, the pure horror fan in me is 100% thinking of the purifying scene. How can you not, right? I remember that, like, when this movie was coming out, this was one of the scenes that they were showing in trailers, like, to a certain extent. And while I think it was incredibly brutal, incredibly gory, incredibly disgusting, and it made me cringe and be thankful that I was born at the time when I was, they really didn't show a lot. It was kind of a little. It was kind of a mastery of making you imagine what it looked like until the very end. They show the guy's head
show the first
caved in
half
and
inch when it gets into his head, which is all you need. Because
just a little bit.
No. I don't need to see the whole thing, and then the crunching sound, and then like you said at the end when they show the entire bored out head. I don't want more than that.
Nice vocabulary.
You don't need more than that.
Yeah, attaboy.
Well, it was a bore.
Fuck yeah,
They bored his head in.
They did. They did bore his head in.
And I wasn't bored.
Attaboy.
I was not bored. But yeah, Mike, that's obviously the best scene in that movie, and I wish I could argue with it, but that's the scene that makes you go, like, ugh. Like, if Eli Roth did that scene, it would have been too egregious. It would have been
honestly, you know what?
Much.
Like, so listening back to a couple episodes ago when you went on your Eli Roth rant, I'm kind of with you. I love that he's a huge horror fan and that he does the History of Horror show on AMC, which is great. I love it. He interviews a lot of cool people. I'm just not a fan of his movies.
It's too much. I don't want to throw up when I'm watching it. Yeah. Like, I like gore, but this movie I thought had more than enough gore.
Can we go back to me about the scene?
Yeah, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Do it.
So...
Sorry, we were off on a tangent.
Well, we were waiting for you to decide.
I know, I'm sorry. So I think one of my favorite scenes is when, in the end, like, at the very end, when it's kind of like a whole... I guess it's a scene, but, like, it's kind of the whole falling action, like, from the minute that he finally gets to his sister, and he cuts her down, says hi, hello, and, like, shut the fuck up, and then he's just, like... The whole thing where he's just trying to get her free and he gets battled by the guy with the hive head thing.
They're
like, who is
sticks, rope, vines wrapped around his head. He's probably a follower of that cult that's just insane.
So at the end, at some point, like when he gets, like I said to Mike when we were watching it, I was like, so is it just his head when it gets like taken off, like that like beehive thing that's around his head?
It's not a beehive, it's vines around his head. He's a real person, he's alive, and he's just insane. He just wraps vines around his head.
But like it looked like the vines went off of his head and he died. Like that's what it kind of looked like at one point when after he
he was obviously closest to the mother bee.
Sure, of course. He's
the guardian of the mother bee.
Right.
He's going to be somewhat entangled with her vine.
Sure. Okay. Yes.
All right. Yeah, he's probably not fully human. He's like a Pan's Labyrinth creature.
Which I kind of appreciate.
You like that?
Yes, of course I do. And I would just say I liked that whole sequence from the minute that he got to his sister until like the minute that he like pretty much gave up and said go to like that whole like area of the movie. I'll say that I don't even know if it's a scene. I mean, it may be a scene, but it's like from the minute that he finally finds her, he like has everything that he needed to get. He got to her and like he finally found her. They're reunited, and then all of a sudden he gets dragged away and she gets dragged away and like it's all over. You know what I mean? Because then she gets dragged away to the prison. He's gone somewhere else.
So you like the end of this movie better than the beginning?
No, I like kind of the climactic scene, I guess is my favorite thing. But then I also like the end.
I feel like the climax is almost at the end.
Well, I feel like there's
pretty much
2, if there is.
It's
because
like
I feel like
3/4 of the way.
No, because the whole goal is for him to get to his sister. And then he finally gets there.
And he does it. He's the ultimate hero.
And then
he sacrifices literally everything he has for her because that's just who he is.
Right. But then when he finally dies and then becomes the island, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's implied.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. That's a cool scene, too. That's what I mean. Like, from that point all the way to the end is
he was there
cool.
to save the island.
Right.
That's why that creature...
Because she said, my son, I've waited for you for so long. Yeah,
exactly. That's Mother Earth calling.
That's cool. I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Essentially, to another level, but...
Hey!
Anyways.
What next?
That's your best scene. We have not gotten into best deaths yet. There's plenty to pick from. Who would like to start that off? And if not, we did best scene.
Best scene.
Okay. Best death. I already have my best death.
My best scene is my best death, so you can skip me because I'm right there with
best death.
Best death, Jeremy.
No,
yeah,
we talked about it.
That's what I said. I said his was Jeremy.
Sorry. Anyway. As you said, we were talking about best death.
Yes.
Actually, I said that. But,
yeah, you did.
The best death is when he's battling, when Thomas is battling with Quinn at the end of the movie. When he finally gets into... Talk about fucking scenes. That's a fucked up scene. He's got the Andrea and his sister Jennifer captured there, and he's going to use them for sex slaves to re-inhabit.
Mind you, he's missing like three or four fingers also.
No, not Thomas, but Quinn.
Oh, Quinn.
Has them held there because he's going to use them for interesting purposes to repopulate that island. And then he comes there, Thomas, and he starts fighting with Quinn. Great fight scene. Phenomenal fight scene. He starts it off with a stab right in the sternum. Mm-hmm. Then they're wrestling. And then Quinn stabs him like 6 times in the side.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. That was like, ooh. Then,
this is why this is the best death, is because, so they have the chain on the wall. Andrea takes the gun, and instead of shooting Quinn, she shoots their chains off, and they're able to get it off partially. So they take the remaining part of the chain, and they put it around Quinn's neck, and they start pulling him towards him, while Thomas has his knife dug in at the top of Quinn's chest, and as they're dragging him towards them, Thomas is keeping the knife in place and just basically disemboweling him and opening up his entire body. That is...
It's
talk
gruesome,
about a death. That's the best death in the movie.
Yeah, I mean...
It's a good choice.
I think you guys both took either one of mine, too. I mean, those are the 2 best deaths by far. I mean,
easily the most memorable.
Oh,
I'd say the other really gruesome part was, if it wasn't a death, but the other gruesome part was when the what's-his-face's fingers got, like, into the...
When the goddess put her fingers into Thomas's head?
No.
Oh, when Thomas got his fingers in the grinder?
The grinder thing, yes.
From the grinder?
Yes, that was the other most gruesome part.
Gross.
That, like, you weren't sure if they were going to actually go through the grinder or not, and then all of a sudden they did.
They did.
And you're like, oh my god.
You know what's funny is that other than those 3 fingers, nobody went through the grinder. I wanted somebody to go
through the grinder. I kind of wanted somebody
to
go through the grinder.
I thought whatever that monster with the bandages on
the
its
name
head,
of the monster is the grinder.
The grinder. So I thought the grinder, like, I thought for sure when you see that, like, akin to 30 Days of Night, okay? You see that trash compactor, you know.
Oh, it's coming.
There's a vampire going in there at some fucking point, right? And you see it, and it's gross.
But it never came.
It never came in this movie.
The hand was enough, though. That made me very... That was very gross to begin with.
Yes, agreed.
But,
yeah.
No, you know, it is what it is. So, which brings us to... Would you go to a haunted attraction if this was one of the main events?
Yeah, and I feel like it could be, because like I feel like all of they have different like houses and stuff. It's a town. I mean, so you could be anywhere in like a field and like the whole like haystack kind of thing that they're in, or you could be in a church, or you could be...
Well, like, I think with that one scene alone where he's crawling through the bloody muck,
absolutely.
that alone is a horror. Like, you could have that just be the only part of it.
Oh, yeah.
I just think of, when I think of haunted attractions, I think of, because they're based on boo scares, right? Jump scares. And for this movie, there's not a lot of jump scary type things. There's a few, but not a lot. So I don't know if this would necessarily translate to that, but I think you could... It could be done. I think it could be done.
Do they
if you made it really in depth, like where you had to wear a bathing suit and crawl through a literal muck of just steaks and Worcestershire sauce and hot dogs slapping you in the face, that would be terrifying.
It would be absolutely horrifying.
But then you'd have to go, is anybody peeing in this? Where am I?
This would be in the same sense of if you had something... Could you imagine along the lines of, like, when we went to Spooky World and they had that big blow-up thing and you said you really didn't want to go in it because you're claustrophobic? Could you imagine if that was filled with, like, water or something?
No.
Or filled with, like, some sort of, like blood?
Buoyant
just
material?
up to a certain point. Like, not even up above your head that made it seem like it wasn't real, but, like, something, like, up to, like, your waist... that made it feel like you were going through that, and then if you were ever to pop that bubble, that it would just spill out all over you. Wouldn't that be terrifying?
Yeah. You are making me fucking freak out right now.
mean, something like that, you wouldn't even need, like, boo scares for. Like, you could actually recreate that entire scene.
Well, what she was talking about before, too, was... when Spooky World was COVID-free a few years ago, there was... So the one haunted house that was closed when we went this year, which was called, like, I forget what it was, but it's basically, like, it's themed to, like, a junkyard with, like, all old cars and a bunch of other shit. And there's a section that you walk through where you're walking through an old...
It's like a junkyard.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Right?
So it's like an old junkyard, and you're walking through this old section of a junkyard, and they have these bags that are filled up with air. And you're meant to walk through it, basically, and you're smushed. It's like claustrophobic type thing.
They didn't have it this year because of COVID.
We did it once.
But this year it wasn't.
So we're going to get into our last category. Mm-hmm. Your MVP of the movie, which I think this is so obvious, which is why this whole podcast revolves around what I am about to say. Not the whole podcast, but my whole podcast. My whole part of this.
Yeah, you're the
Who's your
MVP?
Who's your MVP?
Blue-eyed man. What's his face?
Such a sap. Thomas.
Thomas is my... Yeah. The blue-eyed... He had very piercing blue eyes. And very handsome.
Yeah, very studly.
I mean, yeah. I enjoyed him. He was nice. And I think that he played a great role in this movie. He kind of... like guided the whole movie. He guided the whole movie throughout the whole thing. I mean, he was a major character the entire time, like from beginning to end, from like beginning his search shop with his sister all the way to the end when he died on the island. So I mean, he was the main character from beginning to end.
I agree.
He's my MVP.
So I could very easily say that that Thomas was also my MVP, but I am going to go off the board here. So I'm going to say Malcolm is my MVP. I'm going to go off the board here because, you know what? I think at the beginning of this movie, he is presented as unequivocally the villain, and you come to find out as you continue to watch the movie that he is pretty much like just along for the ride, and then that his second in command there, that dickhead, what's his name?
Quinn.
Biggest dickhead. Quinn, basically, you come to find out, is the power-hungry one that wants to take over his thing, and he ultimately tries to do good at the end. So for those reasons, I think that he is my MVP of the movie, if I had to say.
He showed the most change in character.
Correct. Yes. Most character development, if you will.
Fair.
He started off. It was almost like he's almost like Jamie Lannister.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
you know what? I respect that.
I love Jamie Lannister. Sorry. Go ahead.
I respect that.
Is it your turn, right?
It is. And now it is time for a segment I like to call my MVP with plenty of ranting, because this is where it gets weird. All right. So my MVP is going to be the goddess of Erisden.
Which is the Vine Lady.
Which is the Vine Lady.
Yeah.
Because she's based off of a real person.
Okay.
And nobody has mentioned this, so I didn't steal this from anywhere. I'm probably wrong. It's all very skeptical. But I have a theory.
Fair enough.
One thing I like about what when we're watching movies and we're podcasting is I've started to take notes. And my fucked up brain thinks it's a good idea to just take notes of weird... Anytime they mention anything with a proper noun, essentially. A name, like if it's a full name, a book, a show, a movie. And in this case, they mention the Book of Therese when they're trying to figure out who the intruder is on the island, which I thought was weird. One really weird part about this is that there's 8 people in there, and it's 8 men. And I'm pretty sure when everyone was getting off the boat, there was a couple women who were new to the island. They didn't invite them to that meeting where they had to start reciting from Malcolm's book, which is essentially, he's like Matthew of the Bible is what he thinks he is. And he makes them recite a passage from the Book of Therese.
Okay.
So I was like, I heard that, and I'm familiar with the Bible. I knew that wasn't a part of the Bible.
Right.
So I just Googled the Book of Therese. And nothing came up except for a couple books written by a... patron saint named Therese Lisieux.
Okay.
And she is the patron saint of missions and florists.
Okay.
Missionary. Thomas was a missionary. Florists, flowers, plants. She's also the co-patron.
Thought you were talking about sex there.
She's the co-patron saint of the Apostle Prayer. She died in 1896 at the age of 24. This movie came out in 1905, 9 years after. Like, the setting of the movie.
Right.
I'm not saying that it's based off her, but there's a lot. I would feel if I was a writer and I was writing something and I didn't want to give credit to something, it would be something I was going to give credit to something that no one else would know about. Because I couldn't find this anywhere else. Just bear with me for a moment.
Okay.
The goddess of Erisden is based off Therese Lisieux, the patron saint. One of her symbols is flowers, specifically a rose.
Okay.
Doesn't ring a bell. What does Quinn place in Jeremy's head after he purifies him? A rose petal.
Okay, all right. Okay.
There's a rose petal, and when Thomas comes over and the flowers start to bud again, you can see all the flowers.
Yep.
Right. Okay. All right.
I don't know. She just was a very interesting person. There's a couple quotes she has
with a lot of
that
stuff.
I think, I don't know if these quotes really have much to do with it, but it made a lot more sense. But so one of her quotes, she wrote a biography after she died. She was made a saint. She died at 24.
24.
And she was never really she didn't do anything. She didn't perform any miracles, nothing. But one of her quotes is, "As Jesus had made me realize that the cross was the means by which he would give me souls, the more often it came my way, the more suffering attracted me."
Huh.
Outside the box.
Weird.
I find it similar to the goddess. One of the people she mentions in one of her quotes is Saint Ignatius of Antioch, which means fire bearer.
Right.
A lot of fire. There's burning. She kind of looks like her a little bit.
I can see it. I can see it. Andrew's showing me a picture right now. I can see it.
I mean, I just thought it was interesting because there's so little known, but like a lot of the things that she was given sainthood was because she was just so subservient. Like, she would just do anything for the bettering of others. So one of the things she would do is she was often given like rotted food, the worst leftovers to eat, and would just eat them because someone had to eat them. Which, when you look at the goddess of Erisden, when she's being jammed a funnel down her throat and fed just the bowels of Jeremy and everything, she's being fed the worst. She's being fed the worst leftovers. There's a couple other, not along that line, but makes it spiritual, is the fact that you see the lamb fall overboard. He tries to save the lamb. A lot of pictures of Jesus holding a lamb.
Yeah.
The other part is the word Exodus.
Yes, in the cave.
Which also ties in with, so when they're leaving the blood in the jars outside their doors at night.
Right, it's Passover.
In Exodus, the last plague that befell Egypt before they let the Hebrews rise up in their nation was they had to mark their doors with blood. Lamb's blood in order that their firstborn son wouldn't become. So there's a lot of religious aspects to it, but it was also...
And the movie's called Apostle, of course.
Which makes sense, which I thought it was funny that this bitch... I don't know.
That's
in your own time,
dude, look up super interesting.
Look up Therese Lisieux. Do your own homework, because I don't think he's ever said it. He hasn't mentioned it, but I feel like there's some... He mentions her, and I think he meant to, but he didn't say it. That was my conspiracy theory of the movie.
My God, really bravo, Andrew.
There was two. Oh, one other thing I have.
You do good job. Good job.
He makes a good choice.
The term doubting Thomas comes from the Apostle Thomas, who didn't believe anything until he was shown it himself, which our main character, Thomas, is essentially... It took her sticking her fingers in his head and showing her what happened for him to believe anything.
Yeah, okay.
Did you say when he sharded himself?
I may have, but he is a doubting Thomas, and his name is Thomas.
Okay.
All right.
Interesting.
My God. Awesome stuff on Apostle tonight, you guys. Great stuff, Andrew. Good work. I mean, I would have never even put two and two together with those.
Dude, it just took because I was like, another planet. As soon as I saw the connection, I was like, Mother Teresa.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I thought it was going to be Mother Teresa, but no, it wasn't. It was Teresa de las.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, though.
There's a lot more to it, and I didn't even talk about it, but look it up, and you'll figure it out for yourself, because it seems like it's based off of her.
Well, shit. I mean, I hope you guys that are listening enjoyed that conversation as much as I did, because I had no idea about any of that shit. So thank you again to Andrew. You guys, any final thoughts on Apostle before you wrap it up?
Watch it a couple times. Use subtitles.
Yeah, use subtitles for sure.
I think I will watch it again with
Every
subtitles.
movie with subtitles, especially if they have slightly an accent.
All right, folks, so thanks for tuning in to another episode of America's Hometown Horror. My name is Mike, and I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you hanging out with us for however long this episode has been. I have been joined, as always, by my co-host, Catherine.
Hello.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And driving the bus tonight, our buddy Andrew. Thanks so much, man. Awesome job.
Hope we didn't ride off a cliff.
And
nope, we are still going. And
a little buddy, America's Hometown Horror
Hound Dog. Otis. Yeah, Otis is here.
Ready?
Otis is here.
Speak.
Otis is here. Yes. So, but here's where you can find us on social media. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook. Just search for America's Hometown Horror. You'll find us. Go on Twitter. Look for Hometown Horror. And on Instagram, you can look for Hometown Horror Pod. And you can also email us at hometownhorrorpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find our show wherever you get your podcasts, but most specifically Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, and wherever else. My name is Mike, again, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of America's Hometown Horror. Say goodbye to your listeners, folks. Bye.
Adios, muchachos.
Drive safe.
Woo! Hey everyone, it's Mike from America's Hometown Horror, and just wanted to say thank you again for listening to another episode of our show, because of course, we would be nothing without you listeners. If you are interested in more local Plymouth podcasts, I would highly recommend you check out some shows by our cohorts on the Inebriart Podcast Network. That's right, the Inebriart Podcast Network, folks. In addition to America's Hometown Horror, you can find the Inebriart Podcast, Bar Talk, Theme Park Legends, Retro Redoctopus, and Old Colony Cast. Head on over and give them a listen.